You. Such a blessing to be back with you all here at Unity of Bellevue this morning. In a moment, I will have a reading of the day as well as our affirmation. But before I do that, I want to introduce a very special guest to our community, a friend, and yet also a guest. Dr. Edward Donaldson is our guest speaker this morning. About almost 10 years ago now, when I was a staff minister at Genesis down in Burien, and it has just always been the deepest wish of my heart to welcome him into ministry with me. And so this is the way that I get to do that, is to have him come and be a guest with us now and again. He is the Director of Worship and Liturgy at Seattle University. He is the pastor of a center in South Seattle, Kingdom Family Worship Center, and he is a beautiful human being. Welcome to our community. As well, give him a little bit of love. He's starting to feel like family too, he's been around here enough. Today's reading, typically we read from our book of the month, don't we? And our book of the month this month is In the Flow of Life by Eric Butterworth. And I do encourage you to read this anyway, but we're not going to read from this today because this is the weekend that we celebrate and honor a great teacher by the name of Dr. Martin Luther King. And as I was thinking about today's reading, I wanted to share something from his wisdom that had to do with living a good life. Yes? So this is from a sermon that he gave on February 4th, 1968. The sermon is called The Drum Major Instinct. He gave this sermon at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. I have edited this little section slightly just to, because I'm no Dr. King. So here's what he had to say. He started by referring to the disciples James and John. James and John are making a specific request of Jesus. Now, when you establish your kingdom, let one of us sit on the right hand and the other on the left hand of your throne. What was the answer Jesus gave these men? One would have thought that Jesus would have condemned them. One would have thought that Jesus would have said, "You are out of your place. You are selfish. Why would you raise such a question?" But that isn't what Jesus did. He did something altogether different. He said, in substance, "Oh, I see. You want to be first. You want to be great. You want to be important. You want to be significant. Well, you ought to be. If you're going to be my disciple, you must be. Don't give up this instinct. It is a good instinct if you use it right. It is a good instinct if you don't distort and pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being important. Keep feeling the need for being first. But I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. That is what I want you to do. And Jesus transformed the situation by giving a new definition of greatness. Now, brethren, he said, I cannot give you greatness. And really, I can't make you first. You must earn it. True greatness comes not by favoritism, but by fitness. And the right hand and the left are not mine to give. They belong to those who are prepared. And so Jesus gave us a new norm of greatness. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that the one who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That is the new definition of greatness. And this morning, the thing I like about it, that definition of greatness means everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You don't have to know about Plato and Aristotle to serve. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace. going to read through today's affirmation once, and then I'll invite you to stand and join me with enthusiasm. I live in the flow of life, confident that all is well in the mind of God, so all is well in my life now. Every doubt is immediately converted to certainty. Every fear is effortlessly converted to faith. As I live in the flow of life, an abiding sense of happiness and peace permeates my being, and I live my best year yet, and so it is. Please stand and join me in worship. I
live in the flow of life, confident that all is well in the mind of God, so all is well in my life now. Every doubt is immediately converted to certainty. Every fear is effortlessly converted to faith. As I live in the flow, an abiding sense of happiness and peace permeates my being, and I live my best year yet, and so it is.
Hello, family.
Hello.
I used to think that you liked me, and then you put me up after them. And I found out the truth. I am absolutely thrilled to be back with you again. And I'm thrilled to be here and to have Marla here with us this time. Last time I was here, you weren't able to be with us, so I'm thrilled to be with you. I am a bit unmoored. I don't know about any of the rest of you. I'm a bit unmoored by the state of our nation and the state of our world. As we come together and think in truth and live in truth and walk in truth, the state of our siblings who don't share our understanding has got me a little bit perplexed. And so I admit that as we are leaning into this Martin Luther King Day weekend and celebration, I have a lot of questions, and maybe more questions than I have answers. The good thing about that is when you have more questions than you do answers, you're on the right path. Because life is always unfolding and unveiling, and we're always discovering. And the only way to grow is by asking the right questions. And so hopefully this is a time, a hinge time in human history where all of us together will start asking some fundamental questions that'll lead us to a new and better way. And so while I'm in a deep quandary, I have not become hopeless. In fact, the quandary has led me to probably the greatest hopefulness I've ever experienced. Because the more I look into the darkness, the more I see the light. I want to start, as is my custom, and yes, I ordered new glasses since the last time I was here, and they haven't come yet. So I actually, this is a true story. So I put these on to hear well. And I take them off to read well. And so if you see me doing this, then yeah, you'll understand. If you're not there yet, you're there. Okay, John the 10th chapter and the 7th verse says something very interesting. Then said Jesus unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I want to talk for just a few minutes from the topic, a new narrative. I understand that your theme this year is around living your best life, living your best year. And all of that begins with the story that we tell ourselves. The truth of the matter is, I have found and discovered that most people are addicted to their own stories. Much of that addiction has to do with rehearsing the negative parts of their experience so that other people will have sympathy for them and excuse their bad behavior. Yeah. As the director of liturgy and worship at Seattle University, I deal a lot with students. Isn't that an interesting thing there? And I deal with graduate students. In particular, I deal with graduate students, and being a private institution, I deal with some pretty privileged graduate students who seem to think that the laws of the universe don't apply to them. And so they think that they could not turn in papers and still receive A's. Oh no, I'm not talking about Armani. But I do have this set of students that come in, and they often wonder why the universe is not producing at its opulent, abundant best. And I sit and I listen to these stories of woe. And then I say things like, you and they lean in and they say, yes, Dr. Donaldson. And I say, none of this works like that. None of any of this works like that. I don't know how that story has been working for you all this time. But you see, I am a short black man from West Philadelphia, and that story ends here. So how do we craft a new narrative? How do we get over our addiction to our own stories? The Bible, you've heard me say it before, for me is a spiritual and a metaphysical book from which our theological framework is developed. John, probably my favorite gospel writer, is the most philosophical of all of the gospel writers, and he writes from an entirely metaphysical framework. Borrowing heavily from Neoplatonic thought, he unfolds the mystery of the Christ consciousness. And the text tells us clearly that every thought process that came before the Christ consciousness robs us of full truth. So John is talking to his Jewish siblings, and he says to them, you have really been heavy on the law, and you've really been heavy on the prophets. But really, both the law and the prophets have robbed you of the full panorama of truth. Because you see, you'll never actualize your highest self in legalistic thinking. And yet, prophetic thinking doesn't allow you the space to be introspective enough to come to your whole self. So there's this genuine and authentic sacred tension between law and prophet. There's this space in the middle. There's this liminal both and. You know, being raised a Pentecostal, that was hard for me to get over, you know, because I thought God was this and was not that. And it was pretty black and white, you know. It ran along the lines of behavior modification. You know, if you smoked cigarettes, you were going to hell. It was pretty easy. If you drank alcohol, you're going to hell. And if you disagreed with what we said, do you understand? Binary concepts left no room for the both and God. The God of love and jealousy simultaneously. Those of you who are in long-term relationships understand love and jealousy simultaneously. Stop looking at me as though you don't. Two couples in this place had the conversation on the way here. It went like this. If she speaks to you and offers you a hug, what are you going to do this week, John? I'm going to shake her hand, Sally. That's right, and don't shake it too long. Right? We understand love and jealousy, and we understand the tension between the two. And so John says to us, now, everything that comes before the full range of the Christ consciousness robs us of our humanity In fact, jealousy is such a delimiter because it makes it impossible for you to receive love. And yet love without boundaries is unsafe and makes it impossible for you to receive love. So we really do need both love and jealousy to work together because they're not distinctly separate. They're two sides of the same coin. So John starts talking about this idea of the Christ consciousness. Religion in successive stages has appropriated a great variety of Jewish and Hellenistic religions and other religious symbols to interpret Jesus. However, this doesn't always mean we've discovered or unpacked the truth of Jesus as Jesus communicated about himself. The intellectual brilliance of Jesus is the Christ mind and the ability to combine and transform earlier symbolic patterns to illuminate and disclose meaning in new and unexpected ways. So the entire ministry of Jesus was about a constant reforming of the old into a new and living way. So Jesus says things like, I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, or woman, or anyone enters in, they shall be saved and go in and out and find pasture. Now the word door there, thora, it is the opportunity of doing something. So really what Jesus is saying is, if you adopt my way of thinking, it is always the opportunity of producing at the highest level. Oh, now, isn't that something? Our best life is just on the other side of adopting a new way of thinking. Here's something that's going to blow your mind. Everything in your life is a product of your own thoughts. The good news is, if you thought your way here, you can think your way somewhere else. Because you are the thinker that thinks the thought that creates the thing. So all you have to do is teach your mind what to think. Yeah. That's it. Teach your mind what to think. If I am the thinker that thinks the thought that creates the thing and I don't like the thing, well, I just think a new thought and I'll have a new thing. There's an interesting guy in the Bible that I don't pay much attention to. His name is Paul. He made it in there. I wasn't on the committee. I didn't vote, but he made it in. But Paul is having this experience. It's probably one of the worst experiences of his life. He's standing before King Agrippa. And King Agrippa has the power to execute him or to have him live. And so they bring all the charges against him. And then finally, King Agrippa looks at Paul and says, Paul, what do you have to say for yourself? And Paul looked at King Agrippa and, in my imagination, took a long pause and then responded with these words. Oh, King Agrippa, I think myself happy. This is the trial of his life. Death is the sentence. And his only response is, I think myself happy. Because for once he understood Jesus. Got him wrong most of the time. But in this one case, he understands Jesus. If you think like me, then what you think is what you will experience. Oh, now, this is very interesting. Because as we think through Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we think, how did Christ think? What was the Christ consciousness? Jesus opens up Jesus' ministry with very important text from Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me. Okay, let me say it in unity language. God is in me, through me, as me. And there's a reason God is manifesting through me. the manifestation of God in me, is to speak good news to the poor, to deliver the oppressed, to bind up those who have broken hearts, and to speak an acceptable day for all humankind. That's how Jesus starts this whole thing off. And then Jesus says, if you think like that, everything in the world will be exactly as the world was designed to be. Whoa. Whoa, whoa. If my thinking is not so ego-driven that everything is about me and how I experience it and how it affects me, but if I really think in the collective, if I make a decision that there is no God's mind in my mind, there is only divine mind, that there is no me, then you, only me and you, because we are we, and we are one. And if any one of us is not experiencing opulence and abundance, then none of us are experiencing opulence and abundance. And every system that creates poverty or the effects of poverty or anything that diminishes your humanity is the enemy of truth. If I begin to think like that, then the world starts changing. And the world becomes the place the world was designed to be. What would happen today, Unity, if we walked out of here thinking new thoughts? If we're really going to live our best year, we've got to have our best thoughts. I have a 13-year-old daughter who is about to be 14 in a month and a half or so. And every now and again, I will look at her and say, where did you come from? Because I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. Where did you come from? And the last time I looked at her and said, where did you come from? You're here, but where did you come from? Because I want to know. She looked back at me and said, oh, you know where I came from. Don't you, Daddy? I said, but I mean, I was there. I was there, yeah. But I mean, before that, where did you're different. You're different, and I don't know how you got here. And she said, well, I'm just me. And I said, yeah, wasn't my best thinking. Wasn't my best thinking. She said, oh, yes, you've never had a better thought. You've never had a better thought. In fact, if you had that thought again, it wouldn't be better than me. And I said, you're right. That's why I stopped thinking. I stopped with you. I gave up that thought, and we're going to move on somewhere else. What if you looked at everything in your life and thought about the thought you had that got what you have? Instead of being addicted to the negative story, just start asking yourself, what was I thinking? And how did I think myself here? I don't like where I am, so I must not like the thought that produced. So what is the right thought? What is a new thought? What is a better thought? What is my best thought? How would your conversations at work change? If before you responded, you thought to yourself after reading that insipid email you just received, no, don't respond now. Wait until your best thought comes. This thought you're having here is probably not going to end well. Last time you thought like this, you lost your job. Don't have that thought again. There's a better way. There's a better thought. What if you responded to your spouse with your best thought? Just take a breath. Just breathe for a minute. And then think, I love this person. I really, really do. What's the most loving response I can have in this moment? How would it change your children's life if when they told you they were dating that guy, you thought to yourself, what's your best thought? You know that guy. You know that guy that makes you think those thoughts you probably shouldn't be thinking? Don't let them out of your mouth until your best thought comes. Because I am fully convinced that the reason the world is in the turmoil that it's in is because a whole lot of people weren't thinking their best thoughts. But if just the people in this room started thinking with the Christ mind, started thinking about binding up broken hearts, started thinking about preaching the gospel to the poor, started thinking about tearing down walls instead of building them up, started thinking about uniting families instead of dividing them, started thinking human beings instead of human doings, stopped focusing on consumerism and commercialism and started thinking on our highest self and actualizing our greatness, what a wonderful world it would be. Marla, will you come pray with us?
Are you feeling blessed? Yes. Let's turn with him and get a new thought. Take the same breath with me. And open your heart and mind more fully than you ever have before to the possibility that the Christ mind could be your mind now. That indeed that mind that was in Christ Jesus, who thought it not robbery to borrow the mind of God, could be your mind now. When you simply allow that awareness to descend upon you like a mantle and you begin to feel a deep and rich sense of peace, my mind, God's mind, divine mind, Christ's mind, one mind, I live and move and breathe, have my being in this mind and in this heart of God. And so opening more and more fully to this experience of truth, of wisdom, of power, and grace. Allow that new thought to bubble up from deep within. The well of wisdom that is right where